So today I kind of want to talk about how to follow a monthly comic book, specifically how to follow a monthly superhero comic book. Following something that's creator-owned, like The Walking Dead or Lazarus, is pretty simple. Start from issue 1 and work your way from there. Superhero comics, on the other hand, since they're usually around for decades and have multiple creative teams on it, it can get a little confusing as to where to start or what to keep reading. Do you keep reading the book because you like the character, or do you keep reading the book because you like the writer? Now, this may seem like a cop-out, but unfortunately there is no right answer. Both arguments have pros and cons, and it really comes down to personal opinion whether you should do one or the other. What do I think? Well, find out today on... So what exactly do I mean by following a character versus following a creator? Well, let's say, for example, you want to start reading Thor. Well, if you're following a character, all you do is pick up the main Thor book and just keep reading that. Simple. No questions asked. But if you're following by creator, that changes things. You'll be reading a book based on whether or not a certain creator is writing or drawing that book. Currently, the main Thor book is being written by Jason Aaron. And if you like his work, you'll be reading this book until him and his beard leave the title. On the flip side, if you don't like Jason Aaron, you're not going to touch this book at all. Now, like I said in the beginning, there is no right answer to this question. But for my money, what I do, 9 times out of 10, I follow the creator. And here's why. Let's say you're reading The Flash, and you've been really liking it so far. About 15 issues in, the creative team changes, and the book you knew is now something completely different. The tone changes, the pacing changes, characters act all different. It's not what you're used to reading. You straight up do not like the way this book is going. So why would you continue to spend your money on something you don't like? And that's the problem with following based on character rather than based on creator. You're inadvertently promoting bad storytelling. You're stuck reading a crappy story just because you like a particular character, even though you're not getting any enjoyment out of it. For example, I was actively reading Batgirl when J.H. Williams III and W. Hayden Blackman were writing it. It was one of the best books on the market. Once Mark Andreyko took over, it became something completely different and not up to the standards of the previous team. Rather than dealing with the supernatural and almost grim fairy tale-like aspects of Gotham City, the book became really just a standard superhero book. So I just stopped reading Batwoman. But what I did instead was look at what else J.H. Williams has done. This led me to his works on Batman and the Black Glove and Promethea, and I'm much happier for it. See, when you follow a creator you like, it could lead you to try things that you never thought you'd be interested in. When Marvel announced their latest Hawkeye series back in 2012, I thought what pretty much everybody else thought. Why would I want to read a book based on Hawkeye? But then I saw it was being written by Matt Fraction, who had one of the best Iron Man runs of all time. So if I like that, it stands to reason that I would like what he does with Hawkeye. And now that we're about like 20 issues in, not only do I love it, but it's probably the best work he's ever done. And now, if Matt Fraction announces a creator-owned book like Sex Criminals, I get really excited and anxious to see what that's going to be. To see him do something on his own without the restrictions of Marvel or DC is truly mind-blowing. And the same is true of other writers who go creator-owned, like Ed Brubaker, Greg Rucka, Grant Morrison, and so on. Reading someone's creator-owned work is almost a window into what they could have done if the main two publishers would just ease up on their restrictions a little bit. It's understandable they want to protect their characters, but sometimes that can go too far. Going back to Batwoman for a second, they wouldn't let her get married, so Williams and Blackman left, and the book has suffered for it. Now, that's not to say following creators is the best way to go. That can backfire on you as well. Jeff Loeb wrote some of my favorite comics when he was working at DC. When he announced he was leaving for Marvel, I was naturally excited to see what he was going to do. To see the same creative mind behind Hush and Superman Batman go to the house that Stan Lee built. You know, possibilities are endless. But what we got instead was work that felt like it was done by a completely different person. Ultimates 3 was just bad. Ultimatum is considered one of the worst comics ever written, and his work on Wolverine completely changed and ruined the history of the character. But it can also lead to surprises. For the longest time, I was convinced that Brian Azzarello cannot write superhero stories at all. Batman Broken City and Superman for Tomorrow are just not very good. But his current work on Wonder Woman is incredible. I know people who don't like the character, but love this current run. Now again, this isn't to say that following a book based on a character is wrong. In fact, if you're just starting out, that's probably how you're going to be following a monthly book, based on the character. You're not going to know your Jeff Johnses from your John Romitas and so on. You're probably going to see the Captain America movie and think, oh, I want to start reading Captain America. But once you've read a couple of issues, take a look at see who's writing it, and maybe check out some of the other things they've done. You'll be supporting a writer or artist that you genuinely like, and in turn, you'll be telling Marvel and DC that they should keep him or her around to work on their superhero books, to keep them from becoming stagnant. And it's going to widen your palette as well. One minute you're reading Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four, and the next you're reading Jonathan Hickman's Manhattan Projects. Because let's face it, Marvel and DC will certainly cancel books that aren't selling well, but they'll always relaunch their most popular characters. And hopefully they'll relaunch them with fan-favorite creators as well, ensuring good stories across the board. What do you guys think? What creators do you follow? Or do you just follow the characters because you don't care who writes Green Lantern as long as you get your fix? Let me know down below in the comments or on Facebook and Twitter. Like this video, share this video, subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time. I gotta be honest with you. I just finished this story over the weekend. And the second I finished it, I knew I had to tell people about this story. It is that damn good. Bottom line, this is one of the best comics I've read in the last 5 years. Maybe the last 10 years. So by the end of the generation, you'll have your YouTube app. You'll have your whatever app. You know.
The only difference is then we'll be sucking the information in from little probes in our brains.
Well,